What's going on, guys? Toogie here, back again with some more NHL 16 and my Boston Bruins GM mode. We are finally back after, a week and a half, 2 weeks. We had some editing issues, we had some tech issues, we had a lot of stuff we had to resolve, but we are finally back. But unfortunately, one of the big errors that popped up resulted in me losing all of my off-season footage, and unfortunately, enough big events happened where I didn't want to redo the entire off-season. So simply put, I'll give you a quick look at the awards for last season, and then I'll give you the rundown on what has happened. But as you can see, the Vancouver Canucks are the Stanley Cup champions. Of course, Ottawa wins the President's Trophy, and as always, I'll just scroll through these, give you guys a chance to look on your own time. If you want to read through the history, previous winners and all that, just pause the video on each category because we have a lot to get to in this episode. Calder Cup goes to the San Antonio Rampage. And as far as personal player awards, there's only one person in this franchise who takes home any hardware, and it's Evan Fitzpatrick down in Providence winning the Best Goaltender Award. Speaking of goaltenders, and speaking now to what happened in the offseason and as to why I didn't want to restart this video. The first three moves in the offseason: releasing Riley Nash and our talisman Anton Forsberg, not the easiest thing to do. Alex Ovechkin retires, although I don't know if I'm too disappointed with how bad he was in the playoffs. And then the biggest move happened, which leads me to what our team looks like right now. Two scratch players, Davis and Strand, both depth defensemen. I'll just get right to the chase. We have two new goaltenders. Malcolm Subban abandoned us. He refused to sign a new contract. I offered him a 1-year, $11 million contract. He still declined. So we have lost Malcolm Subban. It's a little bit of a kick in the gut, especially after picking him over Tuukka Rask. He wins a cup with us. We fail in the second round of the playoffs, and then he leaves. Now again, I wasn't lying when I said a lot of things happened, but we acquire Zachary Fucale and a prospect, Lehkonen, who we end up flipping later on, for Ty Fellhaber, Maurice Mathot, a prospect we just drafted, and 2 third-round picks. So my first bit of business, and hopefully the last bit of business, with the Montreal Canadiens gets us Zachary Fucale. And for the record, even better, the team Malcolm Subban signs with, the Ottawa Senators. Just such a kick in the balls. Our backup here, Marcus Olsson, acquired from the Columbus Blue Jackets for a goalie prospect, Maurice Hextall. Yes, very difficult to trade a goalie prospect named Hextall, and 2 fourth-round picks. I was tempted to give Evan Fitzpatrick the job. He's still not designated as a backup goalie. We'll see how Olsen does for us. But these are our two goalies moving forward. Certainly not what I was expecting. And before moving on, we actually have 4 more quick trades, most of them just involving prospects. To New Jersey, we do 2 different deals. The first deal, defensive prospects, Kostitsyn, Albrecht, and Mikulovic. Mikulovic will be drafted at the very first draft for a 2nd-round pick and a 6th-round pick, so restocking there. We also sent to New Jersey a prospect named Rob Calvert. Didn't really have much potential as a forward for a 3rd and a 4th-round pick. To Edmonton, we send the prospect named Datsuk and Lehkonen, who we acquired in the Fucale deal, for a 3rd. And then probably the biggest trade, aside from Fucale, we send Ryan Strome back to the New York Islanders for a 2nd, a 4th, and a 5th. So we'll take a look now at what the team is, starting off actually with the defense. The core remains the same, although I am a little bit concerned. Lozon Falk, the top pairing, Day and Polka, Zaboral, and McCown. I'm concerned because I'm intrigued to see what happens with Zaboral and with McCown. At the end of last season, McCown was complaining about his ice time and his morale was dropping because he's the top 4 defenseman and we had him on the bottom pairing. I don't know how much this has affected you guys in your GM modes, but this has absolutely plagued me and really just decided what direction I've had to go in this series. So whether or not McCown and Zaboral stay here, yet to be seen. If we trade them, that's where Strand and that's where Kevin Davis come in. And offensively, it's not looking too bad. Again, without Ovechkin, we don't have the elite 90 overall player. Lawton at an 87 is our highest overall player, but I do feel like we have a really well-rounded team, especially when you look at individuals' stats. Jake DeBrusk at left wing, 86 overall, paired up now with Austin Czarnik, who's jumped from a third line forward to a second line forward. Also, Artemi Panarin. He had a really rough playoff series, just a rough playoffs in general. We're going to give him one more chance to see what he can do. The stats are still there. He needs to pick it up or we're going to have to cut ties with him. Second line, still, it remains the same. Johnny Gaudreau re-signed. He pairs up with Scott Laughton and David Pastrnak. We need a big season from all three of them. Third line, we have a new rookie, Ivan Suglobov, who we drafted not too long ago. He is ready to make the jump. He was an 85 overall. Unfortunately, some of the roster moves we made, a couple of people lost some overall points. Bergeron, the captain, at an 86 overall, and Keanu Yamamoto is going to get another chance on the main roster. He needs to show us what he can do or he won't be here for too long. We have a free agent pickup slotting in on the fourth line left wing spot, Dmitry Valentenko. He'll be playing with the re-signed Marcus Kruger and Zachary Senshin. Now again, it sucks that we lost that footage of the entire offseason because I do like showing off the draft, especially now in a reduced form. But simply, really quickly taking a look at some of the prospects we drafted. We drafted these two goalies, Stasiak and Chubarov, both fringe starters, so we didn't really strike gold there. Defensively, we drafted Wolf, who we have already signed to a contract, a top 6 potential. Again, we didn't really have any diamonds or we didn't strike gold with this draft, but we got some decent players for the future. Johan Lander also drafted. I have no idea why he has already lost morale, anxiety with his new team. Bravo, EA. Jaskalainen and Pekarainen, not looking like they're really going to pan out, but I couldn't help take back-to-back Finnish defensemen in that draft. We also took Judas and Oda, and hopefully they can turn out to be something. But again, finding it really hard to get those big picks because we're always going for the win. We've yet to really go into a full rebuild to get those top 10 picks that you see other teams having success with now. We also drafted this right wing sniper. We'll probably change to a left wing if he makes it. Jake McKinley is there. As far as left wings go, we have Grice and Stevens. Grice will hopefully pan out. And we also signed Kozhevnikov to a contract finally, so you can listen to me butcher that name for the next couple of seasons. And that is pretty much it. We drafted Marr, who might turn out, Gallagher, Schlemko. So again, more of the same. Some guys who probably won't make it, but if they do, we can probably end up trading them because just 83 overall is like the standard for making this team now. Sure, we have a couple of 81s, but I mean in terms of player roles, the morale system, it's all a bunch of garbage. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get in and sim probably the first 2 months of this season. And again, I do feel a little bit bad for just having to force all of that into the start of this video because again, not the intention. It really sucks losing all of that footage. And then of course over the past few days, the past really week or so, having some computer issues, but also upgrading my equipment in terms of capture device, microphone, editing software, which I do have to say, as far as editing software goes, if you see any weird jump cuts or anything, I am getting used to a new program, so cut me a little bit of slack for the next bit. Not easy switching editing programs, especially when you really got comfortable with the one you were using. But we start off the season with back-to-back 3-1 wins, and unfortunately we will do the scouting assignment, so we'll cut back to this in a second. And we're back. We'll play the next 2 games and then probably give Olsen the second start against Ottawa. 3-2 win against Tampa, and Scott Laughton goes down for the next month to a hernia, so we're getting the injuries out of the way. I thought with Malcolm Subban gone we wouldn't have to worry about injuries. Turns out I was wrong. So moving forward, it's going to be Kravchenko slotting in that third line center spot. Bergeron back up to the center line. Not ideal, but if he struggles, we'll call somebody up. Probably Travis Barron or somebody else that we will inevitably lose to waivers. But we did get a 3-2 win. We play Malcolm Subban, and we get a nice win. 4-0 start to begin the season, and we hand Ottawa their first loss this season. Malcolm Subban, suck a dick, as we get a nice start to the season. Zachary Fucale doing well so far. It's only 4 games, but those are potential Vezina winning numbers. But Marcus Olsson, we've had luck acquiring backup goalies from Columbus in the past. It was a little bit rough to let go of Forsberg, but let's see what Olsson can do in the rematch, and it's a 4-2 win. Somehow, just somehow, we're getting off to a really, really good start here, anchored by some of our more important players and anchored by the goaltending too. But Zachary Fucale will be back in net moving forward. We'll probably do a week or so here. You know what? Let's go to the Florida game. We're going to go all the way to the Florida game. We'll give Olsson the start, but let's see how Fucale can do in these next 6 games. And we are back, and unfortunately, it's not the 6-game stretch we were hoping for. 1-5 losses, at least 2 overtime losses or a shootout loss to Detroit and Toronto. We get an overtime win against Tuukka Rask and the Edmonton Oilers, but not exactly the stretch of games I was expecting after such a hot start. We're currently 4th in the Atlantic. Of course, though, it's very early. Let's see how Kravchenko is doing thus far. Not ideal. We'll give him a little bit more time. As it is, Lawton will be back before you know it, but Marcus Olsson will get this next start. If he wins again, we might just give him back-to-back games. It really depends. Florida, it's a shootout loss, so we will go back to Fucale. So, yeah, not exactly what I was expecting. Again, anytime I start to get just a little bit positive about what's going on here, EA just has to knock me right back down to earth. And again, I'm not fooling myself. We don't have the most amazing team here, but we do have a pretty well-rounded team that should be doing better than this, particularly better than 4 consecutive overtime losses. Jesus Christ. We'll sim the next 2 games. Scott Lawton should be back by then, one would hope. A big game against Montreal. We get a 4-2 win, and Scott Lawton is available. Thank God. So in the sake of keeping this episode short, we'll simply sim to the end of the month and see where we stand. Fucale in net, Scott Lawton fully healthy, and we get back-to-back wins for the first time in a while. 3 wins in a row now, 4 wins. God, this team, this might be a very difficult season to watch. The winning streak comes to an end, a 3-2 loss to the Senators as well, but this looks like it's going to be a very streaky team, which could make for some desperate times come the end of the season. Another loss against the Florida Panthers. That's now 3 losses in a row. 5-0 shutouts. Come on, boys. String together some wins here to end this episode. We have a decent record, certainly better than what I was expecting. And Zachary Senshin goes down to injury. God damn it. Getting the call up for Senshin is our old friend Josh Ho-Sang. Again, he never really turned into the prospect we were hoping that he would be. He still has some very, very good stats, though. He doesn't really fit in with the 4th line theme of 2-way forwards, but we'll see what he can do. We're only doing 1 more game in this episode anyway, and it is a 4-3 loss, but not too bad. A 12-6-6 record. 6 overtime losses already. That is absolutely insane, but we are currently 3rd in the Atlantic Division. But again, it is so early on. Who's to say what will happen? Right now, though, surprisingly, the Ottawa Senators trailing behind, but we are right in the thick of things. The Atlantic Division looks to be very tight, with the exception of the Tampa Bay Lightning. But guys, that'll do it for this episode, and seriously, if you made it to the end of this, I can't thank you enough. Combined with having a cold and just really, I'm sure it came through the mic because I can't hide shit like this. Being nervous as hell throughout recording this episode, not knowing if things are going to work properly. It's a stressful time, but I know that it's a grass is greener situation. There are going to be some kinks. We'll work it out and continue to move this channel towards bigger and better things. But let me know what you think of all of the off-season moves. Again, Riley Nash and Anton Forsberg let go. Ovechkin retires. Malcolm Subban refuses to sign, walks away for free to the Ottawa Senators. We acquire Fucale. We trade Ryan Strome. We switch up the prospect pool. A lot of things are happening with this team. Let me know down below what you think. And as always, if you've enjoyed, make sure to drop a like down below. I'd really appreciate it. Subscribe for more. Spread the word. And I will see you all next time as we continue Season 7.